We're going to be talking to you about your informational speeches and go through that. Before we do that, I have a few things I want to discuss with you, so pay very close attention. What I'm about to say pretty much applies to everybody in the class. First of all, check your grades in Gradebook in Blackboard. Each of the items in Blackboard should be there. If you have a 0 listed for an item that's already been completed, turned in, then you need to be talking to me. I have a couple of people that have 0s for speeches and some who have 0s for exams. You should be mightily concerned about that because it's going to affect your grade in the class. All right, outlines. Generally, the last speech is an exception, but generally there are 2 outlines required for every speech that you give in this class. One is a speaking outline, the other is a preparation outline. Each chapter in your textbook where you're dealing with a speech topic shows you a sample outline, preparation and speaking. Minimally, copy the outline, take the words out that are there that don't have any appearance to your speech and put your stuff in there so your format looks like what the textbook says those outlines ought to look like. I'm getting in some cases an absolute narrative, word for word. That's not an outline. Make sure you cover that. Length of speeches. Each speech is listed. You can get a copy of what all of the rules are, how many visuals, how many how many sources you have to have, and the length. The length. Make sure you read the length. If you made a copy of that prior, please check it again because it probably is not what is there now. Visuals. Most visuals have a source unless you made it yourself, in which case you may want to say, in this visual that I made. But if you hold up a visual or you use PowerPoint visuals, that's just like a quote. You need to cite the source for whatever it is that you're using in your speech, whether it's something you say or it's a visual that you got from someplace else. And just like with paraphrasing, if you get the information but you make the chart, you still have to cite where the information came from. You're going to hear me talk about flow and transitions a lot. Flow is how you get from one point to another. This that I'm talking to you about right now has no flow at all because it's point, 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 point. There's no connection other than, if you want to improve your grade, you probably want to pay attention to what I'm saying to you. The flow is how you transition smoothly from what you're saying to the next point you want to make. And you want to really work on that because otherwise it sounds like fact 1, fact 2, fact 3, fact 4. Okay, those are all the facts. Well, it's like weaving a cloth. You're weaving this all together, and your transitions and your flow is what makes that into a beautiful, completed product. So make sure you pay attention to that. Audience intros. Here we go again. The audience walks in front of the camera. You set the camera up for you. They walk in front of the camera, pause, look at the camera, and give their name and their age. Now, I've said this before, I'll say it again. If they're a little shy about saying how old they are, then they can say, I'm over 21. However, they must be 16 or older in order to be in your audience and count. You need 6 people in your audience each time. Can you see all the fingers? 6? All right, 6 people in an audience. All 16 years of age and older. All must pass in front of the camera before you give your speech. Don't show them in the middle of the speech. Don't show them again at the end of the speech. When you finish however you're going to finish your speech, and then whoever is running your camera or you, turn off the camera. And speaking about turning off the camera, never turn off the camera while you are actually doing a speech, because if you do turn off the camera, then you're going to lose points, seriously lose points, because I'm going to assume that you edited your speech, and as a result, it's going to cost you dearly points-wise. All right, let me try to get this thing started. I just noted that on the very first person, I have not included their fantasy name, so I will do that right now. First person up, and this is the informational speech. This is Bears. All right, I'm having problems understanding some of the words you use. Now, I understand English as a second language, but there are key words, and in your particular speech, you were talking about drugs, particular drug. And in the case of the one you were talking about, it is pronounced marijuana. Marijuana. You referred to it multiple times as Mariana. Mariana. M-A-R-Y-A-H-N-A-H. Mariana. Mariana. Can't do that. It'll confuse the dickens out of your audience. We shouldn't have to guess what it is you're talking about. Make sure you do that. I don't know what's going on, but you and your audience, because you're all in each other's audience, had shirts on that had names on them. The graphics on those shirts are backwards. I have no idea what you're doing to reverse the video, but it's going to cause you some additional problems, because whether you have a shirt on that has your name on it, like right now I'm looking at my name badge in the video that you're going to be looking at, and it's forward. I can read it. It says Keith Klein. It's not backwards. What I'm getting is like you shot a selfie in a mirror, and the printing is backwards in that. The problem is, when I critique your speeches, sometimes I'll say, over your right shoulder. Well, if the video is reversed, it's really over your left shoulder, and you're not going to understand what I'm talking about. So try to figure out why, when you have something with printing on it, a word, that word is backwards when you're making your video. What else? You make a statement in your speech, this is still Bears, that people who get D's or below are most likely to have used marijuana. Well, you know, you better be careful with a sweeping statement like that. Think about what that means. Some person who's an A student who has a buzzsaw of a course and has a lot of problems and gets a D in the course, you're intimating that they got the D because they used marijuana. Be real careful when you give sweeping statements. And you're not citing sources to support many of your assertions, which makes a statement like that even worse. So make sure that you take care of that and do it right. Your outlines look pretty good. Okay, next up is Miro, M-I-R-O, and very nice appearance, interesting presentation, well presented, very well done, good information. You have a little too much background noise. It sounds like a TV in an adjacent room was on, especially at the beginning of your speech. I really like the information that you presented. It was well presented, and there were times, however, where you mentioned some things where you didn't cite the source. You must always, when you state a fact, cite the source. Make sure you do that. Then after you did that, you'd cite other facts where you did have a source. So make sure that your facts, if you have a series of facts all from the same thing, then say what I'm about to tell you all came from, and then do that. Or what I just said all came from. Don't do a source here, and then a bunch of other facts, and then a source at the end. Make sure it's very clear. You mentioned a proverb that you cited, but you didn't say what proverb it was, where it came from, and that's kind of important when you cite a proverb to prove a point in your speech. But this was a very well done speech. The outlines were in pretty good shape. Next up is Cardinal. Cardinal, you went a bit long on your speech. You had an interesting opening. You had a good effort in this speech. Your video is a mirror image. We talked about that. Your writing on your shirt is backwards. Your audience also. What is your credibility? Folks, establish your credibility from the get-go. Who are you to be talking about this? What do you know about it? Maybe it's something as simple as, all my life I've been interested in this topic. But establish your credibility from the get-go. And you need to, kind of like how you have experience in this particular topic. Slow down just a bit. And also smooth out your transitions. Relax a bit. You look tense. you look kind of like you're real tense on this doing stuff, just relax your face. That'll help a lot. Watch the lip smacking. Kind of, it's not a tisk. The tisk is kind of like this. Lip smacking is when you smack your lips. So be a little careful of that. Smooth out the flow from one thought to another. We already talked about that. But overall, good job, and good job on the outlines. All right, next up is Ralph. This was an interesting story with a lot of unconnected facts. You need to establish connections between one fact and another. And I realized what you were doing, and what I've written on here is sources, sources, sources. Where did you get this? Where is this coming from? How do you know any of this to be true or not? Okay, your mic is too far away from you. You have many phrases that are somewhat unintelligible. You know your topic, but you're making an assumption about your audience's knowledge level. Your sources are missing in your speech, and you need to call me because we need to talk. So call me in my office so we can talk about some things that can help you greatly in the future on your speeches. All right, next up is, I got to write a note to myself. All right, next up is Gamecock, and this was a nice job. You said something, consumer something, and you swallowed the second word, and as a result, I don't know what it was that you were talking about. Make sure that you are very clear and distinct on each of the words you use. I'm confused about what is this a program of. Weight supplement, weight reduction. You go from one to another, and it's kind of hard to figure out. You have a bit of an infomercial look to this. It just looks like I'm watching an infomercial on television. You have a nice voice. You have a very nice, strong presentation style. And I have things like, what are your sources for the regimen that you talk about? You have 13 number values, or 13 million babies. You mentioned, and what is your source for that? You never mentioned anything about, is this an FDA approved product? And what about the safety according to whose standard? When you say safe or safely used or anything like that, by whose standard? I already said, is it FDA approved? You're talking about it being safe. We need to know who. You have 600,000 spent on testing, which prompts me to say, versus how much in profits. $600,000 may be a drop in the bucket against $1 billion a year profit. I know that's not it, but figure it out. What was the source of your PowerPoints? Key. Those are PowerPoints. Did you make them? I'm also a little nervous, the infomercial, because you have like a company logo on the shirt you're wearing. The same company logo appears in the products. Not exactly sure that you made a point of saying that you sell this or you represent it, that kind of thing. Those are some of the points, but still a good speech. Next up is Prez. Great appearance, good establishing of your credibility, good job talking to the audience. You talked about people who die each year, but from what? You didn't make that clear. You swallowed something about sedentary activities. You shot too tight. Loosen up. Remember, an inch or two above your head. Bust line. You're up in here. I can see the kind of the top of your tie, and that's it. Too tight. Loosen up just a little bit. Nice job. Interesting alternatives presented for people to do. I don't have any outlines at all from you, so that needs to be fixed. All right, next up is Pacers. Pacers, nice appearance. You start with multiple facts with no sources cited. Facts, no sources cited. There is a very poor connection to your points, that you're making points, but they don't seem to connect for any reason. You're going too fast. This results in mispronouncing several words, making it difficult to understand your points. And I'm not sure what your carryaway was. What did you want us to carry away from this speech, and also there were no outlines. All right, if you didn't hear your name mentioned, I didn't receive your speech, I didn't receive anything else, that needs to be fixed. You need to talk to me about that. Now, listen carefully to what I'm about to say. If you have already used a topic of any kind, you may not use any variation of that topic in any of your remaining speeches. So if you did something about first aid, the Heimlich maneuver, anything like that, exercise, nothing else related in any way, shape, or form to that. On your persuasive speech, I will not accept any speeches that deal with capital punishment, abortion, or any of the major topics that are out there that you're going to be inclined to want to do because, well, everybody talks about that. No, don't do those. I want you to find topics that are of general interest that other people may be very interested in hearing you talk about. Okay? If you have any questions, call me in my office and we can talk about it. All right, take a look at those grades. Make sure your grades are there. If there's not a grade there for something you believe you've turned in, you need to be talking to me because I don't have it. All right, we'll talk to you next time. Have a great weekend and happy Valentine's Day.